when we talk about atheism in our world, it immediately falls into the context of secular and religious, right? So if you're an atheist, it means you're secular, and if you believe in God, that means you're probably religious in one shape or form. None of these statuses relate to the kind of spiritual development that we're talking about in the wisdom of Kabbalah, because in the wisdom of Kabbalah, we are not basing our progress on belief. We don't settle for believing that something is real because someone else attained it or told us that it is so. That is very customary in religious practices, but actually it's quite the opposite of the wisdom of Kabbalah. The wisdom of Kabbalah is based on an empirical method, meaning a person has to actually experiment with it and come to their own attainment. And so Kabbalah is based on revelation, whereas belief, any kind of belief, is based on concealment. So if I'm a believer and that's all there is to my spiritual practice or religious practice, whatever you want to call it, if I'm a believer, that means there might be a God and some upper spiritual world, but I'm good just believing in it. That might be the attitude of someone who considers themselves a believer. In Kabbalah, it's whether you believe something or not, that's not going to determine your spiritual progress. What will determine your spiritual progress is whether you actually are working on developing your new emotional qualities. We call it vessels in the wisdom of Kabbalah. New vessels where you can actually experience what we call spiritual enlightenment or the spiritual world or the relationship with godliness, however you want to call it. In Kabbalah, we are talking about an actual empirical attainment. And the whole method is about what you need to do in order to develop these new vessels within you. There's an entire methodology for it, and it's not based on a belief system and whether you have a belief or not. So from a Kabbalistic perspective, you could have a religious background, you can have a secular background, you can call yourself a believer, you can call yourself an atheist. If you want to advance spiritually, whatever background you come with, the question is, are you going to actually work? It's a method, like you've learned any kind of method in your life, how to read, how to write, how to drive. There's a certain set of laws, there's a certain set of instructions. You learn about the laws of nature, the laws of reality, and how to calibrate your mind and heart to be in what we call equivalence of form with those higher states of perception. And there's a whole method of how to do that. It's not just an individual pursuit. It's something that you also do with others. There's an entire science for it. This is the wisdom of Kabbalah. And whether you call yourself atheist or something else, you're welcome to try it on yourself and see for yourself.